Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome to your Vampire Wednesday, where I'm going to catch you up to where I'm at in both Bram Stoker's Dracula and the Tomb of Dracula Omnibus. I took off the dust cover because I just finished reading this not even 10 minutes ago, and it's getting close to bedtime, so I didn't quite get through 6 issues. I got through 5, but it left off at such a great cliffhanger. Both of them did, that I decided to just leave well enough alone, and I'm going to go right into Bram Stoker's Dracula. Speaking of which, I also came across a great audiobook version on YouTube, narrated by the absolute best Dracula, in my opinion, that being Christopher Lee. But we left off right as Mina had met up with Lucy, and Lucy began her sleepwalking, and Mina found her. It appeared as if someone was standing over her. Just a white face was all she could see, and she managed to get Lucy back home. Of course, Lucy had the telltale little bite marks on her neck, but no one knew quite what to make of that. And Lucy began getting sicker and sicker, and even after several blood transfusions, poor Lucy eventually died. Jonathan Harker excuse me, somehow managed to escape and find his way all the way back to London. And they introduced Dr. John Seward, who is the resident leading physician at an insane asylum, with one particular patient that has drawn his attention after, I believe it was Lucy or Mina had turned him down for his marriage proposal, and that patient being none other than Renfield, who escapes, is captured, brought back, escapes again, trying to get to the big mansion next door for some reason, calling to his master. I can only imagine who that's going to be. And Dr. Seward, after examining Lucy, is called in Dr. Van Helsing, who obviously he knows what's going on, but he needs proof. And eventually they put Lucy to rest, and shortly thereafter, strange newspaper clippings start showing up. Newspaper articles, there are clippings in the book of children acting strangely, also with the telltale bite marks on their necks. And it left off with that. I left off where Dr. Van Helsing says that the perpetrator of the crime, they thought it's Dracula, right? No, it's Lucy, and they've got to go and exhume her and put an end to her. And that's where I left off in Bram Stoker's Dracula. As you can see, I'm about a little over halfway through with this one. Really enjoying it. I wonder if everybody's where I'm at right now. I'm at chapter 15. The date's not here. Dr. Seward's diary continued. It's right before. Let's go a little further. I've also noticed that I've underlined some places throughout the book, and what's funny is it's in different colored inks, so I guess different times I underline different things. But the next date, according to my records here, or my bookmark, will be, oh gosh, still no idea. Just chapter 15. If you guys are there, let me know where you guys are, if you've read a little further ahead than you're supposed to. I think I actually have. I didn't do the exact math, but I try to always stop at a chapter or a new article, so that way I'm not in the middle of a page. I hate doing that, ending stopping reading without finishing a chapter or whatnot. Now, with Tomb of Dracula, we have a completely different story here. I'm going to say it's got to be taking place in the 60s, maybe the 70s. It's hard to say, but we left off with the last one with the children attacking our heroes, and the heroes tried to get into Quincy's vehicle, but it appears Dracula or someone has cut the wires to one or more of the parts of the car, so it will not start, and they're trapped inside the car as the hypnotized children are attacking it. And Quincy has used his car phone, which is kind of cool, but to call in some sort of cavalry, as they call it, but hoping that they will get there in time. While Dracula and a local doctor, Dr. Heinrich, and his daughter, who are the physicians of the town. It turns out Dr. Heinrich is also a vampire, but in his heyday, he created a device called the projector. I forget exactly the exact name of it, but it was this projector that will bring dead corpses in the graveyard or wherever, or other people, and turn them into vampires. And Dracula wants to use this device that was initially designed to keep people alive or to make them alive. But Dracula's got this scheme to turn it into an army-making machine of vampires. But Dr. Heinrich decides to fight back, and there's this really cool vampire battle up in the sky where Dr. Heinrich is holding on to the projector up in the air, and you know what's going to happen, right? And they're fighting, and eventually Dracula does him in, more or less, and he drops the projector. It smashes to a million pieces, and poor Heinrich falls to his death, ending that chapter. And unfortunately, Drac is severely wounded and lands in the ocean. And in the next issue, he's saved by some fishermen and eventually brought to a church that, obviously, no go for Dracula. He tries flying out and bouncing off walls and stuff, and eventually gets out. And he is saved multiple times by one of the people in the town named David and his girlfriend Andrea. And they're about to split up because they live in this weird little village that no one ever leaves, and he's like the first guy to ever want to leave. I guess they're somewhere in Europe, and Dracula says, you've got it made here, blah, blah, blah. And poor David ends up saving Dracula's life not once but twice. And Dracula vows to someday, repay him, and then we never see him again, or at least we don't in the next 5 issues that I read. But Dracula swears his friendship to this guy and doesn't kill him or his girlfriend. And they get back together, and happy ending kind of thing. The next issue is fun because we get the first appearance of Blade the Vampire Hunter, and a couple issues later we actually get his origin story, which I want to discuss a little bit, because I know how popular Blade is. I was never a really big fan either way of Blade. I saw the first movie, it was okay, didn't really grab me, but in this story he's very different. He uses a teak wooden dagger. He's got a bandolier of them, and they seem to be quite deadly to vampires. Another thing you may or may not want to use in your vampire hunting games, because it's like one hit, one kill kind of thing, which I think is a little too easy, at least in the comic books. In other stories, maybe, with the arrows we talked about before, I just find it just a little too convenient. But Dracula finds his way on a cruise ship with a bunch of celebrities, and he plans to hypnotize them and then have them go out and do his bidding. Kind of reminded me of Future World for some reason, where these celebrities and these famous people. You guys know the story of Future World, the movie with Peter Fonda. And he hypnotizes them and is going to send them out into the world doing his bidding. Unfortunately, things go awry, so Blade's there, and he decides, well, this isn't working, so he's going to blow up the ship, and Blade is like the only survivor of this. It's not really a cruise ship; it's more like a big luxury yacht. Maybe it is a cruise ship. It's just some millionaire's pleasure craft. And this is actually where Clifton Graves, Frank Drake's best friend, apparently meets his end. But again, it's a comic book, so he could survive and come back later. I don't know. It hasn't happened yet, but I'll keep you posted on that. The next story is kind of weird. It doesn't really. It just kind of moves the story along. It's full of motorcycle gangs, voodoo dolls, and revenge, and just it doesn't have like a really concise story. It kind of just meanders, getting people into position for the next story, wherein Dracula manages to kidnap Edith Harker, Quincy Harker's granddaughter, I believe, and lures them to a kind of like a haunted house-like place out in the middle of nowhere. The folks nearby call it the Whispering Hell. Blade returns, kind of saves the day, unfortunately, in the battle that takes place in the Whispering Hell. Edith is turned into a vampire, and unfortunately Quincy has to kill his own daughter. Blade does manage to use his magic wooden knife to really hurt Dracula and cut his face, and it's pretty dramatic, pretty exciting, and pretty predictable, because if Dracula takes someone, he just takes a couple of seconds, which is weird because in most vampire stories, when Dracula or a vampire kills somebody, they don't immediately rise. I mean, maybe they do in some stories, but I'm always hearkening back to this, where they have to be buried so that they could attach themselves to the earth, that then becomes their kind of their sole weakness, because in this I've seen Dracula go through running water, been hit with wood, all kinds of things that are supposed to kill him, sunlight. Almost none of these things actually hurt him, except the wooden stake through the heart, or maybe the sunlight in more direct manner. He sees it, he runs from it. The cross runs from it, but very few things actually seem to hurt him, which will tie nicely into tomorrow morning's episode. Excuse me. Let me get a drink of water here. It's been a long day. I've been on my morning show, my hanging out with DM James and Bear, and who else was there? Bruce was there, and we had 2 hours of show there. Game with Bloodworth, and then that got canceled halfway through, and I ended up going out and hanging out with Bruce and Sergeant Dan and Connell, little brother Connell, the cigar DM, and Janet from Another Planet, and we listened to Bear's music and told bad jokes and had a good old time. But I have been talking all day, so I digress. That ended issue 12, I believe. Issue 13, Blade decides he's going to join the group, but only if he can be the leader. There's some arguing about that back and forth, and nothing in that regard really gets resolved. I think, obviously, Quincy Harker has the most experience and should be the leader. And during the issue, we learn Blade's kind of origin story, where Blade's mother's giving birth, and they can't afford a real doctor, so the women... It kind of implies that she's a hooker, because she's living in a house with a bunch of women that are dressed, a certain way. And they finally get a doctor to come in, who may very well have been Dracula by the description, but nobody is certain of that. Dracula comes in pretending to be the doctor, or the doctor's a vampire, and he, shoos the women away so he can, help deliver the baby, but instead drains the mom, kills her, which she should have risen as a vampire if, like I said before, because it seems like in Marvel it's, instantaneously, but instead Blade is born and vows to hunt all vampires till he finds the one who made him. And I don't know if they ever go into that in the movies or what's going to happen in the comic book, but I am assuming that that reveal will come along at some point toward the end, or maybe it's revealed in the Blade comic book. I don't know. But sometimes when they do that, when Marvel did an origin story in one comic book, and then the character gets their own comic book, they get like a whole new origin story to, help transport them along a longer series of books. And in this one's kind of weird because during the course of events, Dracula hypnotizes a woman, but doesn't do anything else. He saves her for later, along with his other minions that are out there, which he seems to have quite a few of them. And when he's done with that, he goes to, of all things, a boxing match to study humans, and is disgusted by their enjoyment of a good old-fashioned boxing match, not understanding it's not supposed to be to the death. It's to be, it's to the knockout, or points and things like that. And he's disgusted in the whole thing. And goes about his business. Of course, they track Dracula down, and there's in another house, and the whole group's there. Getting a good one in on him, or at least trying. His ability to turn into mist instantly as soon as someone fires a shot at him is kind of annoying, because he has to tell them about it every time he does it. Like we forgot that he could do that. In the blink of an eye, he's missed, and then he's back. It's kind of annoying. And everybody gets kind of a good, a good scene where they attack, and finally it actually ends with Blade driving the wooden dagger right in him, but he doesn't, turn to ash or anything like that. It's the cliffhanger for, the transition between this and the next issue, which I will get to next Wednesday. But I've taken up plenty of your time this morning. It's only the middle of the week. We've still got a couple more days to go of Halloween goodness, and I'm hoping you guys have a great week and that you're following along. Maybe you can't follow along with everything, but whether it's you're following along with Bram Stoker's, which is an easy thing, 13 pages a day, or maybe you are actually reading Frankenstein, which is a much thinner book, or maybe if you're lucky enough and you found a way to read Tomb of Dracula, that's awesome. I've been looking forward to this for honestly for a couple of months. I've wanted to read this for well on 50 years, folks, and I finally managed to snag a copy, so I'm enjoying it. Unfortunately, as you can see, we still have a ways to go, but I don't want to rush it, because it is you heard me complain about a few things, but still it is really fun to see Marvel try to do this when just before the lessening of the comic code, they couldn't get away with anything like this. In this book alone, there must have been 20 deaths that are all rather gruesome and descriptive, and probably quite startling to the younger folks that were able to get a hold of this particular comic book back in the day. But I'm enjoying the heck out of all three. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think so far, what you're reading, what you're watching. I'm actually planning on watching a couple of movies before the end of this month. I've had a lot of great suggestions from all you people out there in TV land, and I will actually talk about them in a couple of upcoming videos, probably next week and the week after, right before we get to Halloween. But the month's almost half over. So get out there, get your spook on, and I will see you guys all in the funny papers.